All right, guys, it is time for us to talk some more about lab safety and also talk about first aid. Today should be a little bit quicker. So we talked last time about how we dispose of things in the lab and what we have to do to make sure that things are clean and ready to use next time. We talked about how we rinse the glassware with Alkanox, and we wash and rinse it with water and distilled water. We disinfect and sterilize to remove organisms. A lot of times we will sterilize using the following techniques. We will use autoclaving, and that uses heat and steam and pressure to clean things. We use bleach, that destroys the DNA, and we use a 10% bleach solution. We will use alcohol for surfaces. We use 70% isopropyl or 70% ethanol, and that just denatures a lot of the proteins. It doesn't necessarily kill the organism, so it's not my favorite way to disinfect, but we will use it a lot. Sometimes we will use the heat and steam in the microwave, so we usually use a 5-minute rule on that. We will use ultraviolet light, that will destroy the DNA, and we will use time under the UV light to destroy the DNA, to kill the organisms. And sometimes we will filter organisms out, and we will use a 0.2 micron filter and autoclave to make sure that the solutions that we are using are clean. Now, for disposal, these are some of the things that we need to think about. So for sharps are anything that will puncture or cut. So puncture, there's a C in there, or cut. So we are thinking anything like a scalpel, like scissors or a knife. We don't really use scissors or knives in labs all that much. Sometimes we will think of like a needle. So anytime that we are doing things with a syringe that has a needle in it, syringes, sometimes we will use razor blades. We will use razor blades in the lab sometimes to make very precise cuts, okay? So the way we dispose of sharps is always put it in the sharps container. Now, we don't use sharps a whole lot in this lab, so we do not have a sharps container in this lab. But you will see sharps containers in labs or nursing stations. I'm sure you've seen them sometimes in restrooms for people to put their needles in after they've used a needle to do their insulin injection or whatever. So that's where we put sharps. And anytime the sharps container is full, then you close it up with the hard lid, and then we put it in the bio container. Usually the bio container is then incinerated and burned. Okay, lab spills. There are several different ways that we take care of lab spills. Okay, it really depends where in the lab or what it's spilled on. So for example, if we are spilling something on the face, if we have a splash or a spill on the face, your immediate response should always go to the eye wash station. Okay, that eye wash station is really important, that you get your face in the stream of water and keep it flushed. You want to flush for about 10 to 15 minutes so that we make sure that we get that chemical off your face and out of your eyes. If we have a spill on our clothes or our body, like our arms or legs, we want to be in that chemical shower. And it's the same thing. We want to rinse for 10 to 15 minutes. Okay? Sometimes if it's really bad, you might want to even get your clothes off. We will try and provide privacy as much as we can, but yeah, sometimes clothes need to come off. Okay, the thing to always know is that we need to know what kind of material we are dealing with. So if I am dealing with something that is like not toxic or not too bad, I'm going to treat it very differently than if I spilled, like, for example, acid or base on my skin. So we need to know what kind of material we have so that we know what action to take. Okay? Sometimes we are going to have to contain and neutralize the spill. So if the spill is on the counter or the lab bench or the floor, we will need to contain and neutralize and clean it up. And then we need to dispose properly. Okay? So once again, how we contain and how we neutralize is very important to know what kind of material we have so that we can do that in the correct way. Okay? Glassware and breakage. So if we have anything that is broken glassware, the very first thing you do is call me over. Call me over. Call me over as soon as you see something is broken. Okay? We want to keep people clear. Okay? We want to assess the situation for first aid. So do we have any people who have been cut, or do they have wounds in their skin? Maybe even a puncture wound. Okay? And then we deliver first aid. Okay? And then once we do that, we clean up and we make sure that the broken glass goes in the glass waste. So the glass waste is a big cardboard container that has a really heavy plastic lining, and we can seal it up. Okay, the next thing we need to do is just go over basic first aid. I'm going to change my color really quick. So basic first aid. I know some of you are first aid certified. So we are going to then go over some of our basic first aid. Oh, that moved over. Why did that move over? We don't want that there. All right. We're going to have to do our basic first aid down there. I don't know why that moved over. Okay. So basic first aid. The things that we have to really check for first on first aid is we've got to check for breathing first. That is the first thing we need to check for. Make sure that the airway is unobstructed. So make sure that we have a clean airway. Make sure that somebody is breathing. The next thing that we need to check for, if they're unconscious, is a pulse. Okay, make sure that we have a pulse. Make sure that we've got blood circulating, the heart working. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to check for injury. So that could be cuts, broken bones, wounds, burns. We're going to check for all kinds of injuries, okay? And then once we have done an assessment and check-in, and checked for those kind of injuries, we are going to use the appropriate first aid. Okay? At that point, we should have somebody call 911 and we should administer first aid. Okay? So for example, if we see cuts, we need to apply pressure. Okay? We'll apply pressure, we will clean out the cuts, we will get them bandaged and taken care of. If we see broken bones, we need to immobilize those as much as we can until first aid personnel comes in. So we might need to create a splint for somebody really quickly, or we might need to immobilize their back and make sure that if they have a spinal injury. If we have wounds, we'll definitely need to put pressure on those, see if we can clean them out, whatever, but just keep the bleeding down to a minimum. Put pressure on it. If we have really bad wounds, we might have to do a tourniquet. If we have burns, we're going to have to flush that with water and cool those down as much as we can. Okay? So those are the type of things that we are going to be looking at. For our assignments today, we are going to be looking at different scenarios of different things that are happening in the lab. And I just see I missed a D here and I can't seem to write it. We are going to be writing what we would do for those scenarios, and we are going to be uploading those onto Canvas. So that is going to be your assignment today, and we are going to use today to check up. Next time we are going to start on metric conversions and start doing dilutions, molarity, molality, and all those kind of stuff. So, all right, we'll see you later. Bye.